Hi, this is our first Q&A Wednesday, and we so appreciate everything you sent us. We had a lot of you that seemed to have the similar questions, so we grouped them and came up with the ones that kept popping up. So let's get right to it.
So, the first question we got from a lot of you is this: is training in other genres important? That's a really good question. Now, we're assuming you mean non ballet genres, right? So, things like, jazz and tap and things like that. And like with everything, it depends if your dancer's focused on ballet or not. If they are, that really should be the top priority. And really make sure that they're getting the best ballet training they can in your area. Other genres for serious ballet dancers are contemporary and sometimes modern. Ballet companies are adding more and more to their programming that's not just straight up classical ballet. So they'll have a lot of contemporary ballet. And so it's really important that your dancer understand that and really have a good grounding in contemporary and modern to set them up to be as versatile a dancer as they can be. Okay, so that's really like the stock answer you're going to hear from most people in the ballet world, right? Yeah.
Super ballet focused.
Right. But here's what we both found. Both of our kids started as competition dancers.
Loved competition.
That leans a lot more toward like jazz and tap and hip hop. And although there's not really like a direct correlation in terms of technique and these genres and ballet success, we really think that it teaches other important stuff that's a little less tangible.
Yep.
So kids who do a lot of jazz and hip hop and tap, they learn to move in a way that's less stiff, and they just really learn to like move.
Yeah.
They also learn rhythm and musicality early on, and who wouldn't love learning that when they're dancing to popular music? These types of dance are also like, how do I want to say it? Like the showy genres, meaning that they learn stage presence that they may not get in a ballet studio. Plus, learning this stuff is fun. Our kids,
super fun.
they loved it when they were doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
But as your dancer gets older and more serious about ballet, there will probably be less time for those kinds of classes. Contemporary will always be part of a program, but the other stuff is probably going to go away. So is it critical to train in other genres in order to be a successful ballet dancer? Probably not, but it certainly does help round out your dancer as kind of a true performer.
Yeah, and really helps them with getting stage time and to overall just have fun in dance and to just kind of learn how to let loose.
Right.
So the next question we got from many of you is, does it matter whether my child trains in a specific type of ballet or in a variety of types? Okay, let's get into the ballet weeds for a second. There are several different types of ballet techniques. And yes, for the sake of argument, let's say Balanchine is a technique. That's a whole other can of worms. There's RAD, Royal Academy of Dance, that originated in England, Balanchine, Cicchetti, French, Vaganova, and Bournonville. I think I say that right. Most studios tend to focus on one style. So your dancer will become most proficient in that. And at a younger age, it is important that that training be consistent regardless of style.
Right.
As you get older, though, summers can be a great way to sample other styles. Abby's teachers always believed that summer was a great time to do this. Down the line, when your dancer hits the job market, having the versatility of multiple styles in your body will be super helpful and make you more marketable and more valuable in a company.
So, one interesting thing is there are some teachers who think summer should be spent further honing the style they train in during the year.
Right.
Which is totally fine.
Absolutely.
Sam's teachers at San Francisco Ballet felt pretty strongly that he should get training consistent with what he was working on in the school year. And so if your teachers want you to go that route, it's totally okay and probably worth following their advice. And remember what we said about teachers having your child's best interest at heart. This is another example of where it's best to just talk to your teachers about how they want your child to spend their summer.
Right. And sometimes even the same kids or two different kids at the same school get different advice depending on the kind of dancer they are.
Right.
Okay, we've talked a lot about genres of dance and benefits of learning different styles, but none of this matters unless the training your child is getting is strong. Clearly, many of you are wondering this because we got several questions asking the age-old question, how do I know if my child is getting a quality training? And in the beginning, I had no idea. I couldn't tell you the difference. But Brett and I, over our years of hard-learned knowledge, we really want to share this with you. And sometimes it's really hard to know because neither of us danced. So
Right.
here are a few things to keep in mind and great ways to tell. First, are they getting into strong ballet programs, summer programs? For boys, are there scholarships attached to the summer intensive acceptance? Scholarship money comes less often to girls, but if your daughter is getting scholarships to summer programs, it is clear that the programs thinks that she definitely has some potential. And that there is a little bit of a difference between boys and girls. And I think Brett can speak more to that in a more boy-focused post because it is a little bit different for boys and girls, especially for summer and scholarship money.
Yeah.
If your dancer is taking master classes, are they keeping up? Or are they getting a little bit lost? Do they seem to be improving in between parent observations? If you can't tell, see if someone you trust can take a look at them.
Yeah, I had no idea. In parent observations, I always had to ask somebody that knew something about ballet.
Right. And Abby thinks it's funny that I still can't tell you what a fondue is. Is your home studio producing dancers that ultimately have professional careers? The thing about ballet that's kind of interesting is that the playing field resets each year and dancers all audition for the same programs, and it's pretty good indicator about where your kid falls in the ballet hierarchy based on those summer intensive acceptances.
Right. So, and one other thing that we always found really helpful is have your dancer take a private lesson with someone who really has no skin in the game.
Right.
And, it's not really considered a major faux pas to ask that teacher what they think from what they've seen during the private lesson.
Right.
You can just ask, does it look like my son is getting good training? And we found in our experience with Sam that the teachers that we've worked with are usually pretty honest.
Yeah, and usually give really, really good advice.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about a subject that we all have to think about, and let's talk about cost. And we got several questions about this, and is ballet only for the wealthy? I'm so green at all of this. My daughter always loved dance and fell in love 3 years ago with ballet and has been at a real ballet studio for the last 2 years. The training costs, point shoe costs, etc. I was floored. Any tips on how to make this more feasible for parents with limited income? And then they said something very nice to us. Thank you for creating this. Such a gift for parents who are new to ballet and have no clue like me. And I appreciate you. Well, we appreciate you. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we hope that you keep coming back. First, thanks. And we know how hard this is. So cost. We won't lie. It's expensive. There are a few ways to cut costs if you're willing to be a little bit creative. And these are some things that specifically I have done. Let's talk about studio fees. The most important thing is to get a sense of all of your fees that you might be paying throughout the years. For example, are there performance or costume fees for a winter or a spring show? And then does your studio compete? And if that is the case, then that's a whole other an entire web series that we can do. Ballet will really remain a big, long budget item for your family budget, so it's really best to plan out in advance. But there are also some other things you can do to cut costs or even spread them out over the year. First, some studios are willing to offer discounts to families who need it, but if they don't advertise it, you can ask.
Right.
And there usually is some flexibility in there. Students usually ask for fee payments at the beginning, or studios, ask for fee payments in the beginning of the year or the semester, and maybe go on a monthly payment plan so you don't take that hit all at once. Finally, some schools will allow students or families to trade work for reduced fees. We have seen this where a parent might work the front desk on a weekend or a weeknight. And the other thing that is always needed around the studio is help, whether it's cleaning or having your dancer serve as a teacher assistant. We know lots of families that did this in return for reduced fees. Also, if you live near a large company affiliated school or conservatory, they often have large financial aid packages available, and some programs are free or heavily subsidized. So do your research in there because there are several options available. And don't forget about summer intensives. Once a dancer is 12 or 13, this does become part of the financial roller coaster of ballet. The good news is that summer intensives offer a lot of scholarships and need-based financial aid. The cost of summer programs vary widely.
Yeah.
So it's good to do your research up front. If you have more specific questions about how to cut costs for summer, please reach out to us directly, and we can have a more in-depth conversation about it. The other place you can save money is clothing. Let's face it, this is girl specific. There are some groups of girls that seem to have a limitless supply of the coolest, newest leotards and warm-ups, and it really becomes an issue through the teen middle school years. And I get a sense that your dancer's still on the younger side, so try not to get caught up in the ballet clothes horse race. Believe me, we had lots of conversations about Yumiko's for 11-year-olds, and I was not willing to do that, and I was a terrible mother for that. But she got over it. You can usually find, actually now, a lot of used leotards on a lot of websites, including Poshmark. Poshmark actually sells a ton of leotards. And there are loads of clothing resale accounts on social media. So not only do they sell clothes, but they also sell point shoes. Think about how quickly kids are growing, and they so often outgrow their shoes before they give out. And I have actually sold several of Abby's shoes on different Facebook groups. So just do a search on Facebook or Instagram for dancewear resale, and you can join these groups. There's also an app called Tutu List. And they sell used dancewear as well, and it looks pretty good quality. And we'll actually do a blog post soon that lists all of the main resale resources for dancewear and shoes. And point shoes. I know, it definitely does become a line item in your budget. And there are some dancewear stores that offer customer loyalty programs where you buy a certain number of shoes and then you get one pair free. So definitely seek those out in your area and see if you can find a dance store that does that. Also, if your dancer does decide to compete, there are a lot of resources where you can either buy resale or rent your costumes. And just make sure that you leave enough time for the tailoring needs, but those are a great way to kind of cut costs. And we have both been in situations where we are driving really, really long distances for dance. And so carpools have really helped for this. And it does spread out the load across multiple families in terms of gas and can be a lifesaver to working parents who may not be able to leave work early. And parents, we'd love to hear from you what you've done to keep your costs down. So shoot us a note or leave us a comment on our Facebook page.
So we also, talking about girl-specific and boy-specific stuff, we actually got some questions about boys in dance. And one question that really jumped out at us was about looking for studios that had boys. So one person asked, should I seek out a studio that is able to recruit and retain boy dancers? So that's a really tough question. And this is coming from the parent of a boy. Mm-hmm. The reality is that there just aren't very many boys in local ballet studios or really any kinds of dance studios for that matter. Why this is a conversation for another day. But to answer your question, if you can find a studio that's able to recruit and retain boys, absolutely look at sending your child there regardless of gender. And if you have a boy, he'll be with his people, which is fantastic. And if you have a girl, let me tell you, you've hit the partnering jackpot.
True.
It is really, really hard to recruit elementary and middle school age boys into ballet because of all the societal stigma that exists. So if you find a studio with a lot of boys, it probably means this studio is a welcoming place to all who want to train there. So that's a good thing.
Yep.
But this really shouldn't stop you from finding the studio that is the best fit for your dancer, regardless of your dancer's gender. You just may not have a choice based on where you live. I mean,
So true.
there are very few boys anywhere, so you really kind of have to take what you can get in terms of the student population. So look at it as a bonus if there are boys, but it really shouldn't be a deal breaker.
Right.
And if you're the parent of a younger girl, don't sweat it because they aren't ready to partner anyway, so it doesn't really matter. For the older girls, that's where I think it gets important that someone be there to partner them. And sometimes it ends up being a male teacher if there aren't boys in the classes. But there really needs to be someone, and so it's more important as the girls get to partnering age.
Right. When Abby was younger, she learned partnering from a male teacher. And that was actually super helpful because he really taught her how to correctly position her body so he could lift her properly. And it really taught her also that she was equally responsible for the partnership and that she needed to continually talk to her partner about what was working and what wasn't. And that was really invaluable for her.
Right, yeah. And she came into her upper level ballet program really well versed in partnering.
Yeah.
So for parents of boys, it also really depends on how comfortable your dancer is being either the only or one of a few boys.
Right.
And Sam was almost always the only boy at his local studio. Sometimes there were a couple boys that were significantly older, but it was usually just him. And I think he was fine with it, but I do think he could have benefited from having more boys around.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So we also had a parent ask, how likely is it to have a ballet career coming out of a non-ballet studio? So coming directly out of a non-ballet studio, honestly, it's pretty unlikely.
Right.
There will probably need to be a few steps between the non-ballet studio and one that focuses on ballet.
Right.
And like we mentioned before, both of our kids started in studios that offer jazz and tap and hip hop and other stuff.
Totally.
They also had ballet, but I don't think it was nearly as rigorous as what they would get in a dedicated ballet studio. So we'll talk about the path that most professional dancers have taken with regard to their training in a future post. But the main thing to know is that by about age 14, your dancer really needs to focus their attention on rigorous ballet training.
Right.
And the truth is that what we're calling non-ballet studios aren't really equipped to guide dancers into professional ballet careers. Commercial dance, sure.
Totally.
That's a great way to do it, but probably not ballet. Of course, there are always outliers, and I'm sure somebody will tell you, well, my kid did it out of, school XYZ, but we're talking in general terms here.
Right.
And so, that's really what we want to look at.
Yeah, the exception, we're talking about the rule, not the exception.
Okay, so the next question we got is about competitions. Now that the competition season is coming to a close, we got the inevitable question, are competitions necessary to have a successful ballet career? Now, we will put up a more detailed blog post about this next week, but the short answer is no, it's not necessary. If your dancer likes the idea of competing and it's within your family's budget, go for it. But definitely don't feel like it's critical by any stretch.
Right. That is really true. Finally, we got a question from a parent ready to send their dancer off to their first summer intensive program. And the parent asked, this will be my dancer's first away from home summer intensive and going for 5 weeks. Any tips for us parents or for her, she's 15, so that she can have her best experience? Okay, first, yay! Our kids loved summer intensives, and we're sure yours will have a blast. We hope it's okay, but we took the liberty of asking our kids what they would recommend to your dancer to make it a great summer. So here's what they told us. First, and this is actually really important, make sure you arrive at the program healthy and in good shape. If you have any sort of nagging injury, make sure that it's taken care of before they leave for the intensive.
Right.
Second, go meet as many people as possible. Knock on all the doors on your floor. Go up to people at lunch and sit with people at dinner. Sit with new people. Really push yourself. to expand your social group and insert yourself into new groups. Take a risk socially, and it will pay off. And your dancer will have a bunch of new friends from around the globe.
Yeah, that's right. One thing that Sam did when he would get to sorry, I am tired. One thing that he did is when he got to summer intensives, is he would go hang out in the communal areas of the dorms. So the TV room or the game room, and he would just wait for people to show up. And that was a great way for him to make friends.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Abby was like the queen of ping pong at her summer in Houston. And please remember that summer intensives are a great time for dancer networking. The dancers that your kid meets at summer programs will be the same ones that may be dancing professionally in just a few years. With that in mind, be nice to everyone, because you never know who you're going to keep seeing year after year.
That's right.
Third, do all the extracurriculars. Almost all summer programs offer weekend activities. If it is within your family budget, because it is an extra fee to do this, do as many as possible. And this is where a lot of friendships are solidified. And finally, they both stressed, do not put too much pressure on yourself. You'll be working really hard, but enjoy it, because the summers go really fast and you actually don't get that many of them.
Yeah, Sam's done with summer intensives and he misses them.
Yeah.
Okay, so parents, let's talk about how to make it easier for you. So the biggest issues that came up for us every summer were communication and money. And let's just start by saying the odds of you hearing from your dancer on a regular basis are low. This is actually a really good thing.
A really good thing.
It's going to drive you batty.
Crazy.
But it means they're busy and it means they're having a great time.
Yep.
Now, if it works for your family, you could try to establish a regularly scheduled call. I knew a lot of families that would FaceTime on Sunday evenings. That's usually the downtime at a summer program. Now, I only heard from Sam when he needed money. Otherwise, it was radio silence, which leads to the next thing. Establish a budget. Take a look at all the outings and establish a budget for the duration of the program. For example, if one of the outings is to a water park, which a lot of them do have, they will need money for lunch and snacks and probably the sunscreen they likely forgot.
Or the towel.
Right, or whatever. Or perhaps they are at a summer intensive where the food is terrible. Houston Ballet.
Houston.
You're likely to see your dancer racking up huge DoorDash bills. The key here is to go into it with consistent expectations. And here's a little pro tip for communication. If you can't get your dancer to call you, here's a surefire way to get that phone to ring. So when Sam was at a summer intensive when he was 14, it had been almost 3 weeks since we had heard from him. We were pretty sure he was alive, but not 100% certain.
The Life 360 dot was moving.
It was moving. That's right. So parents, take note. This is what I texted Sam. If I do not hear from you in the next 15 minutes, I am freezing your debit card. Well, that phone rang within 30 seconds.
What a surprise.
Yes. I need money. You may not need to take such drastic action, but just keep this in your back pocket in case things get dire.
So this concludes our first Q&A. We really hope it was helpful. If you did like this video, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also go follow us on Facebook so you don't ever miss a post. We'll be back next week to answer more questions. So if there's something you want us to cover, be sure to head over to ballethelpdesk.com and click the contact to reach out to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.